question we're going to address in this crash course video: how economic systems are related to the biosphere. In order to talk about this, we're going to need to know what an economic system is. So I'm going to explain how a basic economic system works. So you have your demand curve, which slopes downward. And you have your supply curve, which slopes upward. So down here you have your quantity, and this you have your price. Right here in the middle is the market equilibrium. This is where the price and the quantity match the supply and the demand. If you shift the curve, supply to, the price and the quantity are going to move. These are just basic neoclassical economic principles. Free market economists, or neoclassical economists, believe that we should use our capital and use this economic system and have it be completely unregulated from the government. They believe that this is the best way to solve all economic problems. There are two main reasons for that. They believe that the true values of resources are determined by the supply and demand graph. They believe also that privately owned resources are more likely to be treasured by their owners. This is a nice way to look at our system. However, it will never happen. We need government intervention because there are always going to be buyers and sellers that are going to mislead each other, and there are always going to be prices that don't include the direct and indirect costs. Markets cannot be relied on to provide adequate levels of public service. That's why we have the government. Government intervention can prevent a monopoly where one person monopolizes the market, or an oligopoly where a couple of companies monopolize the market. Some examples of how government intervene is providing an economic safety net, they manage public land resources, and they prevent and reduce pollution, which is important for our biosphere. The government usually gets help deciding how they intervene into these markets from ecological economists. It's important to consider the difference between ecological economists and neoclassical economists. Ecological economists view economic systems as dependent on the Earth's natural resources, and neoclassical economists see the Earth's natural resources as a part of the human economic system. Ecological economists usually rely on three major assumptions to make their models. The first one is that resources are limited and there are no substitutes for most types of natural capital. The second is that the government should encourage environmentally beneficial and sustainable forms of economic development. And the third is that harmful environmental and health effects of producing economic goods and services should be included in their market price so that consumers have all the information before purchasing their goods. There are three major examples of strategies that are used for implementing these principles to make the transitions to more sustainable eco-economies possible. One is tax shifting, which is a decrease in taxes on wages, income, and wealth, while increasing taxes on pollution, resource waste, and environmentally harmful goods. There's also cap and trade, which is to use tradable permits or rights to pollute, or to use resources in order to limit overall pollution. There's also subsidy shifting, which phase out environmentally harmful subsidies and tax breaks while increasing subsidies and tax breaks for environmentally helpful goods. Ask, how do we put values on natural capital, pollution control, and resource use? All these things seem rather arbitrary. But until ecological costs are included in the price of goods, such as timber or fish, we will continue to use many of nature's natural resources unsustainably. When assigning value to natural resources, ecological economists often take three things into account. They often take in the mitigation cost, how much it would take to offset any environmental damage. They also estimate willingness to pay by surveying public opinion to determine how much people would pay to maintain natural resources. And they also compute the discount rate, an estimate of a resource's future economic value compared to its present value. The size of a discount rate is a primary factor in affecting how the resource is managed. The economic analysis does not usually take into account the immense economic value of ecological services.
How can we use economic tools to deal with environmental problems? Interestingly enough, environmentalists actually disagree with the current economic system because it doesn't evaluate the effects of direct prices. There are 3 problems with this. First, it masks the effects from the consumers. Second, it does not encourage a transition to more environmentally beneficial services. And third, it promotes degradation, waste, and pollution. The current evaluation of economic yield of a nation is measured by its GDP, gross domestic product, and per capita GDP. Using environmental and economic indicators can help reduce our environmental impact. There are 3 unique alternatives being used in the world today: GPI, HPI, and GNH. GPI monitors environmental quality and human health well-being. This means Genuine Progress Indicator. HPI, the Happy Planet Index, was first conducted in Central America, where the lowest ecological footprint and highest satisfaction scored the highest in the world. GNH, or Gross National Happiness, has been used in South Asian nations of Bhutan since 1972 in an attempt to create a sustainable economic system. These environmental economic indicators are crucial towards directing our development in a sustainable and beneficial way. Check out the Story of Stuff to learn more about environmental economic indicators. If we can make the change to an environmentally honest market system, reflecting the full cost of a product, it would reduce waste, pollution, and improve human health by promoting consumers to make informed decisions. While it is difficult to estimate the environmental costs, and businesses would be pretty reluctant to change, the bottom-up approach of political pressure, that's where we come in, would reduce short-term profits and change the flawed economic system. Good thing for this, consumers like us can encourage the development of green products and services through product eco-labeling, the labeling of environmentally friendly products. Promoting this in turn motivates phasing out of subsidies and tax breaks that eliminate the incentive to be wasteful with the environment and degrade the environment. Additionally, the government can support tax breaks for pollution prevention, sustainable forestry, water and energy consumption, and actions to slow climate change. There are certain countries that have already done this with their government, such as Japan, France, Belgium, China, and Germany. Green taxes, or eco-taxes, discourage pollution and resource waste by including the full market prices into production and consumption. Lowering taxes on things such as labor, income, and wealth, as well as raising taxes on pollution and waste-producing activities, will lead to a more environmentally sustainable economic and political systems. For this to happen, however, there are 3 key requirements. First, green taxes would need to be phased in over the next 10 to 20 years for future businesses. Second, the income would have to be reduced so there's no net increase of taxes. And third, the poor and middle class would need a safety net to ensure the essential items such as food and gasoline would not be taxed any higher. If green taxes are such a good idea, why has the United States not enacted them yet? Well, the United States has not enacted green taxes because powerful corporations have such a large influence on our economy, and they don't want to make the shift. Currently, the United States passes laws through an inefficient process called command and control, which increases costs and discourages innovation. Incentive-based regulations encourage waste and pollution reduction by encouraging the development of green products and makes companies much more competitive. In one form of incentive-based regulations, the government sets the limit of resources and gives companies a number of tradable pollution permits. But unfortunately, big pollutant corporations can buy their way out and work around the system. That's why it's important that we, as consumers, must speak up with our walls and support green-producing companies. The switch to a service flow economy can consist of using the minimum amount of resources possible, producing little pollution, and encouraging recycling. An example of a corporation run by an environmentally informed and concerned man is Ray Anderson, the deceased CEO of Interface, the largest commercial manufacturer of carpet tiles. Created in Georgia, Anderson developed the nation's first environmentally sustainable corporation. He completed 100 projects to reduce waste, energy consumption, fossil fuel usage, and more. Ray Anderson shows us that it is possible to create ecologically considerate companies that do not damage the environment.
Women in developing countries today are losing their children due to their jobs affected by pollution. Pollution is the leading cause of death in low and middle income countries, according to a report from the Global Alliance on Health and Pollution. In 2012, pollution in the form of contaminated soil, water, and both indoor and outdoor air was responsible for 8.4 million deaths in developing countries. That's almost 3 times more deaths than those caused by malaria, AIDS, HIV, and tuberculosis combined. Worldwide, pollution is responsible for 8.9 million deaths, or 1 in 7 deaths globally, with air pollution as a leading offender. We need to contribute to the effort to prevent pollution in developing countries, because while our economy is global, so are pollutants. By working towards reducing environmental problems like pollution, reducing poverty will also largely help the environment. So, how can reducing poverty help us deal with our environmental problems? 1.1 billion people struggle to survive on an income of less than $1 a day. Poverty is one of the 5 major causes of our environmental problems. Our goal is to help the poor by encouraging a growing economy, such as providing more job opportunities. However, it is possible to climb out of poverty in a short amount of time, such as the countries South Korea and Singapore. They focused on education, hard work, and discipline, which attracted investment capital. Developing countries are still burdened with the debt they owe to developed countries that increases every day with interest. Analysts have suggested that developed countries like the US relieve these indebted nations on the occasion that the money saved would be used towards providing basic human needs. We can further assist developing countries by funding a global effort to fight off diseases, provide universal primary school education that would improve literacy, stabilize population growth in developing countries, reduce the ecological footprints of developed countries, and encourage lending agencies to make small loans. There also exists microlending or microfinance, developed by economist Mohammed Yunus. He has helped several people climb out of poverty and into small businesses. The Grameen Bank in Bangladesh has provided microloans, and to mostly women. For these loans, in order to ensure repayment, the bank organizes micro-borrowers into 5 member groups, and if one member fails to pay their payment, the other members are required to pay it off for them. So how can we make the transition to more environmentally sustainable economics? To avoid running out of resources from mass consumption, a temporary solution is Madl recycling and reuse economies, which mimic the cycling of nature. But according to the 2 laws of thermodynamics, recycling will always require high-quality energy and add heat and pollutants to the environment, which is not sustainable in the long run. The best solution to our environmental problems is to shift to a more sustainable, low-throughput, low-waste economy by using less and wasting less. Trying to shift to eco-economies by improving environmental quality and working towards sustainability can create profits and new jobs. However, this shift will require more governments and industries to increase their spending on research and development and becoming more socially and ecologically responsible.